So we are live on Facebook and we are being recorded and it's 7 o'clock. So we're going to start, and those people who are late are late. So welcome to this meeting of Text and Context, which is the second out of three about the music of Stephen Sondheim of blessed memory, who we lost earlier this year. So we're going to look at Being Alive, which is one of the three songs that the Colorado Hebrew Chorale is singing this season. And it is from the musical Company by George Firth, with music and lyrics by Stephen Sondheim. So if you're wondering, well, if Stephen Sondheim wrote the music and the lyrics, what did George Firth write? Well, he wrote the book. He wrote the story and the lines that the actors say that they're not singing. Song appears at the end of Act 2, and it's sung by the main character, Robert, otherwise known as Bobby, who is a 35-year-old bachelor, and at the show's end, quote, realizes that being a lone wolf isn't all it's cracked up to be. And he declares that he wants to take a chance, be afraid, get his heart broken, or whatever happens when you decide to love and be loved. So Sondheim talks about the fact that when he wrote Being Alive, he was not married. He would not be married for several decades beyond that. I have not seen a lot of long-term relationships that he had. So whatever liaisons he might have had, he kept them pretty private. He mentions that he talks to his good friend, Connie Rogers, who is, yes, the daughter of Richard Rogers, who at the time was getting out of her first marriage and was in the process of starting her next relationship. And so he got advice from her about what it was like to be in a marriage. Not sure how accurate that is for somebody who's in the process of going through a divorce. So the song became very, very popular outside the original musical. It was first recorded by Dean Jones, who originated the role on Broadway in 1970. And even though it's written for a male part, there is a recent production that is in the process of coming back to life that has a gender bender situation. So all the roles are switched. And the only role actually that is the same as the original cast, and I know that from my Broadway advisor, is the role of Patti LuPone as the older woman, and we'll see that in a later in our conversation. So Being Alive has been performed by, you pick a big Broadway star, and they've covered it: Bernadette Peters, Patti LuPone, Barbra Streisand, Leah Salonga, on and on and on and on and on and on. And it actually replaced the song Happily Ever After, which is what Sondheim wanted to be the end of the show. And he calls Being Alive somewhat of a cop-out. So we're going to listen to a couple of different performances of Being Alive and take a look at the lyrics. So first, I'm going to share my screen. And okay. And so you should be seeing my lyrics here. And these are the lyrics in the version of the song that the that Kol Nashim is going to be is singing this year, which is arranged by Matt Huff. I didn't find an arrangement that I liked or a version that I liked of just the women's voices. So this is mixed voices. And this is all the text. So Huff repeats from this, from here. He goes back and repeats this. So we're going to take a listen to this and then talk a little bit about what these lyrics say to us. Signal me if you hear this. Everybody hearing this? Great.
Somebody hold me too close. Somebody hurt me too deep. Somebody sit in my chair and ruin my sleep and make me aware of being alive. Being alive.
And that's the Bridgewater Raritan High School Choir with the soloist was Justin McBurney, the baritones doing the baritone solo. So I would love it if y'all could unmute if you'd like and give me some impressions. What strikes you about this text? I mean, I've marked, a few things that the two conditions he has repeated consonant sounds, right? Hold and hurt, sit and sleep, need and know, pull and put. But let's talk a little bit, because what he does as far as poetic devices is not very complicated in the song. So what strikes you? What is the biggest thing that happens in this song as far as use of text? Anybody? I need Anne. Barb, I saw you unmute.
Well, he starts with the hurt. He starts with the, hurting me deep, and by the end, it's, helps you survive. That you get this love that will make you feel like you're alive no matter what has happened.
Well, he doesn't say love.
Well, he does. Somebody
Incredibly love.
I can't read the lyrics. It's
somebody
crowd
me
with love.
Crowd me with love. Well, crowd me with love.
Like bring it around me. Bring it.
Oh, see, so okay. So anybody else? Jessica? I saw the unmute. I can see it. I see the little red thing disappear.
Right. When we sing it, it strikes me too that all of the things he comes at from a negative angle.
What I was going to say.
Yeah, I agree. It's from a negative, and we'll look at the original. So this is, Huff. This is not the whole song. This is part of the song, and so he comes negative, but also it's very repetitive. Somebody blank me, and somebody blank me. So it feels to me, and then make me and mock me. The person singing is very passive. This is things that are happening to the singer or the character, and they're never, there's nothing active about it. I mean, I think that certainly most of us on this call, to my knowledge, are married and in long-term relationships. And if all you are is passive in the relationship, that becomes very challenging, I think over time. So
He even says, force me to care.
Force me to care. I will play afterwards. I will play the whole scene. I see I've got a comment in the chat.
Crying out.
Sorry, Barb.
He's crying out.
Well, if you see the scene, what they tell him is that he comes up with all kinds of reasons not to be in a relationship, but no reasons to be in a relationship. So, I mean, is this person who's singing, which can be a man, it can be a woman. So are they wanting somebody?
Or are they afraid?
Or
scared.
Are they describing somebody? So, I mean, I think somebody hold me to, somebody please. But even the please is not there. It's kind of expecting things. And it's interesting. So what things strike you as somebody? First of all, I highlighted make because the original text is let me come through, not make me come through. So I'm not sure if that's an error on Mac Huff's part, or that at some point in popular in repetitions, it changed. And so, yes, so I see Cantor Schwartz saying maybe this person is ambivalent. And we know that, the rest of the cast is trying to convince him that pairing off is a good thing. And he is resistant. And I think that there are people that I know who have chosen to be single all their lives, who would very much object to this. And maybe subconsciously Sondheim, who was alone, I think till his 60s, he wasn't in a committed relationship until his 60s. And he wrote this much earlier than that. Yep. Also, less chance of getting hurt if alone. And that's his whole point is why should I allow somebody to hurt me too deep? And I think if that's how you go into a relationship, I don't think you go in. I mean, why would you go in? So hold me too close, hurt me too deep, sit in my chair. I love this one. Sit in my chair. If you think about, and we talked about it even in shul, if you think about the people who have to sit in their seat, right? And we were a family of 7. We had assigned seats. And if anybody sat in your seat,
My father had his seat. That was Daddy's chair. You didn't sit in it.
yeah. So
and my mother, when she, after my father died and she moved to Denver, she still had the chair, and it was still Daddy's chair. It was still a seat that nobody ever sat in.
Yeah, but it's interesting that the perspective is here. If I find somebody to cause all of these discomforts, see, I feel hold me too close is like stifling. It's like, okay, I feel that way sometimes with my cat. Like, would you get off of me already? Enough, get away from me. So hold me too close, hurt me too deep, sit in my chair, ruin my sleep. We've all had nights like that, whether we have trouble sleeping or our spouses, not mine, heaven forbid, but if our spouses snore or whatever it is, but those hurts make me aware of being alive.
The last 2 or 3 lines of every stanza become positive.
Become positive. So, and there is a philosophical perspective that says, if everything was always good, we wouldn't appreciate it, right? If we didn't have the hard times, how would we appreciate the good times? From my own perspective, I could do with a little less of the challenging times. I'm good. But how about the second stanza? So these are kind of physical, right? The first stanza, you're too close, you're hurting me too much, you're in my physical space. But the second one, need me too much, know me too well.
Is very vulnerable.
Yeah.
I don't want you to know so much about me.
I don't want you to know so much about me. I'm a little concerned about having you know me too well. Maybe I'm worried that if you know me too well, you won't like me all that much. Pull me up short. I'm wondering what he meant on pull me up short, other than it rhymes really well with give me support. So any thoughts? Pull me up short. Let's keep mulling about that. Put me through hell. I can tell you that the person who put me through hell, I am no longer married to. I think that there's a line. I don't know that somebody who is married would say, "Oh, my loving spouse, the person I love, my beshert, puts me through hell."
Might say it about our kids at times.
Yeah, or maybe those times where you are needed to the point that your own needs are unmet. And, we know there's always times where one person's needs have to take precedence. We can't, we can't all be in crisis at the same time. So, and maybe that's the pull me up short. It's like, okay, in Hebrew, we say adkan, this far, you're spiraling out of control. Let's take a step back. And the same thing when it's my turn, I'm going to put up with your stuff. I was struck, and that's why I highlighted it, because we say being a lot, make me aware of being. Again, it's passive. It's so much of this is so passive. Make me alive. I don't have responsibility to make myself alive. It's really interesting. And I would be interested in giving this to a psychologist and saying, okay, what do you think of a person who thinks that this is what a committed relationship looks like? It's a little uncomfortable. And then make me and mock me are so audially sound so similar to each other. Make me confused, mock me with praise, let me be used, vary my days. So this is all very uncomfortable, but alone is not alive. And I like the AL and the ends, alone, not alive, right? It's almost like the rabbinic, if you mix the letters up, it sounds like this. And again, crowd me with love and force me to care. So passive. Make me come through. It's your job to make me be accountable. But if you do, I'll always be there as frightened as you to help us survive being alive. So if we don't have a partner, and maybe that's part of the message, is that the negatives start to overwhelm, and surviving, I mean, being alive is hard. I don't know anybody on this call who hasn't dealt and isn't dealing with major challenges that at some point you say, you know, the heck with this. I'm tired of the package. I'm ready to put it down. And so I think with somebody to help you and pull me up short, may equal, let me know when I goof up. Yeah, that's good. And that's an important thing too. And we know we all do. We all make mistakes. So I'm going to now go down, and this is the full lyrics. And these gaps here, there's talking in those gaps. And I have the full scene with Neil Patrick Harris as Bobby, and with Patti LuPone playing her part as the older woman, which she will reprise. And so someone to hold you too close versus somebody hold me too close. So this is on the first side, he's describing negatively what he thinks she think a relationship is going to be, a committed relationship is going to be. And then it turns into being passive. But if I allow this to happen to me, then it will help me be less frightened of being alive. So let's listen to this. Actually, I'm going to get out of here, and I'm going to let you watch this because they're just wonderful. And let me move this. Here we go.
I didn't mean that. Oh, I just heard a door open that's been stuck a long time. Like I haven't looked at all that, at marriages and all that.
Louder, please.
I can't. I have my computer as loud, and this as loud as it gets. It's just not, I think they're speaking without mics. So I think you have to turn it up on your end for the dialogue and then turn it down for the singing. I'll start it again. It's just, they're so good that it was worth, let's see, how do I get this to, there we go.
As high as it can.
All right, here we go. Trying it again. Just turn it up on your end when they're talking. I have the volume all the way up.
I didn't mean that. Oh, I just heard a door open that's been stuck a long time. Like I haven't looked at all that, at marriages and all that. And what do you get for it? What do you get?
Well, the check is paid. What's wrong?
I've looked into all that, into marriages and all that. And what do you get for it? What do you get?
What happened?
I just did someone a big favor. Come on, Larry. Let's us go home.
What do you get?
Bobby.
Bobby.
Bobby, baby.
Bobby, Booby, Bobby.
Robert, darling.
Bobby, we've been trying to call you.
baby.
Bobby, Booby.
Angel, I've got
Bravo.
something to tell you.
Bobby, honey,
Bobby,
we've been trying to reach
Bobby,
you all
baby.
day.
The kids were asking Bobby.
Bobby,
What have you been up to?
Stop! What do you get? Someone to hold you too close. Someone to hurt you too deep. Someone to sit in your chair to ruin your sleep.
That's true, but there's more than that.
Is that all you think there is to it?
You've got so many reasons for not being with someone, but Robert, you haven't got one good reason for being alone.
Come on, you're onto something, Bobby. You're onto something.
Someone to need you too much. Someone to know you too well. Someone to pull you up short, to put you through hell.
You see what you look for, you know?
You're not a kid anymore, Robbie. I don't think you'll be a kid again, kiddo.
Don't be afraid that it won't be perfect, buddy. The only thing to be afraid of is that it won't be.
don't stop now. Keep going.
Someone you have to let in. Someone whose feelings you spare. Someone who, like it or not, will want you to share a little, a lot.
But what does all that mean?
Robert, how can you know so much about it when you haven't been there?
It's much better living it than looking at it, Robert.
Add 'em up, Bobby, add 'em up.
Someone to crowd you with love. Someone to force you to care. Someone to make you come through. Who'll always be there, as frightened as you of being alive. Being alive. Being alive. Being alive.
Blow out your candles and make a wish, Robert. Want something. Want something.
Somebody's unmuted.
Hold me too close. Somebody hurt me too deep. Somebody sit in my chair and ruin my sleep. Make me aware of being alive. Being alive. Somebody need me too much. Somebody know me too well. Somebody pull me up short and put me through hell and give me support for being alive. Make me alive. Make me alive. Make me confused. Mock me with praise. Let me be used. Vary my days. But alone is alone. Not alive. Somebody crowd me with love. Somebody force me to care. Somebody make me come through. I'll always be there, as frightened as you, to help us survive. Being alive. Being alive. Being
So let's get out of here. So the way that he interprets it, and let me pull the lyrics up again.
Yeah. But of course, getting denied was probably a blessing. I mean, if I had stayed, I would have gone back to Omaha.
Okay, so what happened? What happened when he transitions from someone to hold you to somebody hold me? Right? The character underwent a transformation, something very dramatic. And this is something that you can't write in the script, right? This is an internal transformation of the character that the actor does. And so when he starts out, it's very mocking, right? Someone to hold you too close, someone to hurt you too deep. But in Neil Patrick Harris's interpretation, what is the somebody? What is that passiveness that we talked about? How does he understand it? So Kander Neal says it's like he suddenly gets it.
It made more sense to me seeing that clip because he seems to talk himself into it. He convinces himself.
Okay. To anybody else? There were two lines of texts which struck me, and I jotted them down so I wouldn't forget. One was, you see what you look for. How often have you seen a couple, friends, maybe they're at your house for dinner or you're at the, and you go, I don't get it. Why are these people together? Right? He's constantly picking on her. She constantly criticizes. They fight over, I don't understand what's going on. So you see what you look for, right? That was one. The other was, it's better living it than looking at it. I like that line. To me, his transition, the first somebody, I agree that the final somebody was, yeah, he got it. But I think when he first transitions into somebody, it's, I can't. I am unable to do it on my own. I need somebody to help me take that first step. And it's really, to me, and I hope you noticed that it was let me, not make me. Where was it? Okay, people are joining at 7:30. They saying let me there. He's saying let me come through, not make me come through. One of these he's saying let you come through. So this is an interesting choice. And as I said, Sondheim felt that this was a cop-out. And so what I'd like us to do now, let me close, exit, click to exit full screen. I'd like you to hear, hang on, I'm just going to play the commercial so you don't have to hear the commercial. I love the commercials on YouTube, as we all do. All right, and dismiss. And we're going to listen to Happily Ever After. And I'm going to leave up the lyrics. There we are. I just need to move things around on my screen so I can see, I can see the windows. So Happily Ever After. So what I'd like you to notice is which lyrics from Being Alive came from Happily Ever After, because Happily Ever After was written first, and that was what Sondheim wanted as the closer for Company. And he was asked to change it because it was too dark. So notice there are lyrics that made it through, and then notice what happens to the tone. And hopefully I think this is louder. Here we go.
Someone to hold you too close, someone to hurt you too deep, someone to love you too hard, happily ever after. Someone to need you too much, someone to read you too well, someone to bleed you of all the things you don't want to tell. That's happily ever after, ever, ever, ever after in hell. Somebody always there, sitting in the chair where you wanna sit. Always, always. Somebody always there, wanting you to share just a little bit. Always, always. pretty girls smiling everywhere from the ads and the TV set. And why should you sweat? What do you get? One day of grateful for 6 of regret. With someone to hold you too close, someone to hurt you too deep, someone to bore you to death, happily ever after. Someone you have to know well, someone you have to show how, someone you have to allow the things you'd never allow. That's happily ever after, ever, ever, ever after, till now. So quick, get a little car, take a little drive, make a little love, see a little flick, do a little work, take a little walk, watch a little TV and click, make a little love, do a little work, get a little drunk. You've got one little trip, 70 years, spread it around, take your pick, buy a little here, spend a little there, smoke a little pot for a little kick, waste a little time, make a little love, show a little feeling, but why should you try? Why not? Sure, feel a little lonely, but fly. Why not fly with no one to hold you too close, no one to hurt you too deep, no one to love you too hard, happily ever after. No one you have to know well, no one you have to show how, no one you have to allow the things you'd never allow. That's happily ever after, ever, ever, ever after, for now. Ever, ever, ever after, ever, 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 ever after, ever, ever, ever after.
Yeah. So that is Jason Tam in from the new cast recording of "Marry Me a Little," where songs by Stephen Sondheim. So, what did you notice? Okay, so agree with the producers. This is too dark and depressing for Broadway, at least the usual ideal Broadway of happily ever after. Although those people who choose to live alone might disagree and say that it's more their reality and they're being represented. So lyrics that you noticed that stayed the same and lyrics that changed a lot and other stuff, anything. Help me here. Don't make me say everything.
Well, the song you just played, he never convinces himself otherwise. He just,
go
so
ahead.
the whole section of the song where he convinces himself that it might be a good idea to have a partner isn't there.
So he goes from, instead of from someone to somebody, he goes from someone to nobody.
Right.
Right? Nobody. I don't buy it. We get one turn on the merry-go-round. Why should I stick myself with one partner for the whole time? Right? But words that make it over, right? Someone to hold you too close, someone to hurt you too deep, right? Put you through hell, makes it through. Sitting in your chair. I have to think that Sondheim had a real thing with his chair. I just have to think that he had a real thing. But what about the quality of the music, right? Being Alive is very ballady, right? It's a closing ballad. What is Happily Ever After? I was almost thinking about from Avenue Q, everyone's a little bit racist. You know, it's this, makes you think that you're going to be getting this upbeat song called Happily Ever After. And when in fact, it does exactly the opposite. It's exposing something dark. Why should I get stuck? Why should I let somebody know me? Why should I let somebody in? So it's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting.
Part of it is also that Sondheim had to not only live with his parents who did not divorce on the most wonderful terms, and then it continued, the acrimony continued. And so my sense, without knowing much more about the, Marry Me a Little and the other aspects of different failed musicals or failed ideas within musicals as he was making his ways as a career and not wanting to do someone else's book or write for someone else's lead. I like most people who write, you have to write from what you know. And this to me sounds very much like what he knew in his, that he took from his childhood forward, that he did not have a spectacular time. And so that whole empty chair thing that you mentioned, saying that may have been in his own house. I don't know, but
and he may have had this feeling of not having a chair. He talks about basically being raised by the Hammersteins because his mother was distant. And I can't remember the whole story, but I remember hearing it on the radio of his mother sending him a note for some birthday saying, my biggest regret is my whole life is having you. Oh, that's right. She was going in for bypass surgery. And she wanted to make sure that he knew, in case she died in the surgery, that her biggest regret in her life was that she had him. So how could a person like this write about marriage and not having experienced a close, loving relationship? Although he says that the Hammersteins were very much a model for him. Where is, as Carol, you point out very well, where would he find that model for, well, living together is a good thing. And going back to what I said before about permanent seats around the table, well, you have to have dinner together to have that, right? Yeah, but I found it interesting, the one little Jewish nugget, or maybe I'm interpreting, one day of delight for 6 days of hell. There was that line was in there. So
I noticed, I don't know if he grew up in New York City. Maybe somebody knows more about his background, but the tone of the language is very familiar to me. What I heard as a kid, Yiddish speakers speaking English, and things can be very declarative and hyperbolic. Like the line "put me through hell," like that was a real popular one when I was growing up, and it's their way of speaking is like a little overly strong for what you want to say, and I think it comes through in the song that you hear that tone.
Yeah, although interestingly, I didn't hear that. Well, I did hear it in the Neil Patrick Harris when he did the Someone, right? And he did such, I mean, I know that the sound was soft, and I think it was an unmiked theater, and why they didn't at least put up recording mics, I don't know, but it was such an amazing cast, and he does such a wonderful job of really taking us through the journey. And so Cantor, I don't know that he was not emotionally crippled. I don't know that he was not. I remember hearing that on a radio interview. I was driving and I heard it in the car, and my whole body, I nearly had to pull over because I just couldn't imagine a mother putting in right. I mean, would be bad enough to say it, And you're right, Jessica, the generation of, oh my God, you're killing me. You're killing me. I'm going to throw myself off a bridge if
Thank you. I hear it in the song, and like everybody would kind of almost scream at each other while they were talking to each other.
Yeah, but he didn't grow up there. I mean, he grew up do you remember where the Hammersteins, it was somewhere out in the suburbs of New Jersey?
Sondheim grew up in New York City. The Hammersteins had some summer location. When the parents split up, Sondheim was sent to a military academy, which he said
Right.
was actually a good thing for him because of the structure of doing this and doing that. And he also commented, you know, his friendship with Jimmy Hammerstein, but he said in terms of, you know, as it were, Jimmy Hammerstein's father, there's a wonderful, warm father figure. He said, if he'd been a nuclear physicist, I would have been a nuclear physicist. There was nothing he would not have done to have pleased them. And he, meaning Sondheim, had the beneficiary of literally, you know, being in the Hammerstein sunshine. I mean, it's just, all you need is a caring adult who, if it's not your parent, but it's a caring adult. And he got that. And you know, we who know of his music, we are the richer for it because he took on these complexities, and it's not that he said he didn't come up with a happily ever after. He just said, well, this is what it is. I'm going to just turn it a little, only out of defense to my mother, who has been a widow for a very long time. But one thing she has said, she'll be 94 next month. One thing she has said for herself is, alone is not lonely. So you have to figure out what, if you know, if people are shoving people at you, but you would rather prefer your own company than have to compromise whatever it is that you feel you're being asked to do that is not working for you. It doesn't work for everybody, but it is interesting that I do think about that from time to time, because she had a pretty good handle on the being alone thing until her health started to fail, and then from a person who could call her own shots and run her schedule to having people walking in and out of her house all day long, that has driven her nuts in a different way the last 9 years.
Yeah, so. and I wonder if he wrote this later in his life, you know, whether his perspective, you know, I mean, alone is not alive is I think is a terrible sentence to say. My grandmother, my father's mother, was widowed young. She never remarried. She lived a rich life. I often asked her why she never remarried, and she would never talk about it. You know, she would never talk about it. But to say that if you live alone, your life is not worth living, I think is not. But I agree that I don't know that he would have been so drawn to the complexities of the human condition, you know, and it is true. Again, you know, those of us that I know, we're all in long-term marriages, and there's all kinds of compromises involved, whether your spouse travels or whether they're retired and at home all the time. You know, there's all kinds of compromises that you make in not being alone. But that doesn't mean that if you're alone, you know, your life is over. So I think it's, you know, for a song that seems to have a lot of economy of words, because a lot of the words are somebody or someone and being alive and make me, it has a lot to say. So thank you everybody who participated, both in text and sharing out loud. And unless anybody has anything else that they would like to add, Bonnie.
Yeah, I'm just curious. I'm thinking about this as part of the woman to woman concert, and how appropriate is it? It almost seems like
Very
it's
appropriate.
abusive. I don't know. I don't know what side you're looking at it from, but to say alone is not alive when these women, hopefully the abused women, have left left their partner, and they're trying to make a life for themselves alone. It almost seems abusive relationship he's talking about.
Yeah, he wrote in his biography, they said that he tested his mother, who was said to be psychologically abusive and had projected her anger from her failed marriage onto her son. And he said, when my father left her, she substituted me for him. And she used me the way she used him, come on to and berate and beat up. And you can see what she did, and treated me like dirt. Then she wrote that letter, and he didn't go to her funeral. They were estranged like 20 years.
No kidding.
Yeah, I mean, really horrible. But
I don't know.
he grew up in New York City and then in Pennsylvania. When the parents divorced, I guess he was sent to Doylestown, Pennsylvania, to a farm. I don't know where he met the Hammersteins, where that connection came in, but it was around the same time.
They were
He was in
neighbors.
school in Pennsylvania.
His mother knew that the Hammersteins were down the road, and they have a kid about your age. Why don't you go over there and play?
Yeah,
Something along that line.
He was in a private Quaker prep school in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, when he wrote his first musical by George in 1946.
Remarkable talent and a remarkable gift. But I think that, as we talked about in rehearsal about no one is alone, it's not necessarily a person, that makes you feel not alone. Or it's not necessarily a spousal person. It could be your child. It could be a pet.
Right.
I didn't go into the lyrics that much in depth when I picked Being Alive. I just thought that it was, more of a, I'm choosing to be, and yeah, it's the lyrics are challenging. The lyrics are challenging. And if we don't have time to finish them all, maybe this would be the one that will go, oh, well, we're only doing 2 Sondheim songs.
Yeah. In that Happily Ever After, so whatever happened with the song? It never went anywhere. It was black.
I didn't research it. It says here that it's part of Marry Me a Little. So another Sondheim show. There were a bunch of them that did not succeed, that are being revived. Now that he's dead, everything's going to be revived. So
it's going to be interesting. They're going to look at it in a very different lens.
Yeah.
Well, it's dark, but there's lots of dark stuff out there.
Yes, there is. But I don't know. For myself right now, given all the darkness that we've been living with the last couple of years, I'm good for a straight out comedy.
You want something fun, yeah.
Straight out romantic comedy. Wendy, did you want to say something, or was that your dog barking back there?
Oh yeah, that was the dog. Sorry.
Okay.
So dog wants to comment.
Yeah. So with that, we'll call it an evening. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Text and Context. If you'd like to support the Colorado Hebrew Chorale, please go to our website, www.coloradohebrewchorale.org. There's a donate button on every page. We present these programs free because we want to bring more Jewish music into the world, but we will not turn down your support ever. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a good night. Have a great week. Laila Tov.